You're listening to Inside Insight, the podcast that dives into the latest innovations and strategies in manufacturing, distribution, and Dynamics 365 Business Central. Brought to you by InsightWorks, this show features our hosts, Ryan and Emma, as they bring you expert conversations, industry insights, and practical advice to help you stay ahead in this constantly evolving world.
Okay, so anyone out there who works in manufacturing, you already know what I'm talking about, right? The constant struggle to get great products out the door quickly while also jumping through all those compliance hoops.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a balancing act for sure.
Today, let's really dig into how to make that whole process at least a little bit easier, maybe a little less stressful.
Yeah, definitely. I think what we often see is that companies are relying on these, old school quality control methods like tons of paperwork and spreadsheets.
Yeah,
And that actually ends up causing more problems than it solves.
totally.
I mean, think about it. You've got the potential for human error right there, just from all that manual data entry.
Right.
And then you add in all the time wasted just trying to find the right information on some massive spreadsheet. And the worst part, by the time you actually identify a quality issue, so much time has already passed.
Yeah, it's already too late.
It makes it so much harder to fix.
So that's where this idea of like a smarter, more integrated way of handling quality control comes in.
Exactly.
And so today we're going to take a deep dive into Quality Inspector, which is specifically designed for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central.
Okay.
And now for anyone who isn't familiar with that, Business Central is basically Microsoft's big system for managing, well, tons of different parts of a business.
Right. It's pretty comprehensive.
The really cool thing about Quality Inspector is that it's not like some separate add-on. It's built right in.
Right.
It brings that whole quality management aspect directly into a system you're probably already using.
Yeah, it's all about that tight integration.
Exactly.
So at its core, Quality Inspector is really quality control software made for manufacturers, and it's embedded right within Business Central.
Okay.
That close connection is really what makes it so powerful.
I see.
Because it means you can do quality inspections in real time throughout your whole production process.
That makes sense.
The big goal is to catch those defects early on, when they're just little problems.
Yeah.
Keep your standards super consistent, and ultimately way fewer defective products end up going out.
Right. Fewer fires to put out later on.
Exactly.
So let's actually get into how it works.
Sure.
One of the things that really jumped out at me was this idea of like customizable quality inspection templates.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like that would be a game changer for being able to really fine-tune your quality checks, based on whatever specific product you're making.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
So think about it. Let's say you're assembling bicycles, right?
Okay.
The quality checks you need are going to be really specific to bicycles.
Right.
You need to make sure the gears are aligned perfectly, the brakes are working properly.
Yeah.
You've got to check those welds, visually make sure the frame color is consistent, and even that the packaging is the correct dimensions.
Makes sense.
The customizable templates in Quality Inspector let you define all those super specific parameters, and not just for different products,
Okay.
but also for all the different stages of your manufacturing process.
So once you've gone through the work of setting up a template for, say, your mountain bike model, how does that actually work in practice, like out on the factory floor?
Well, once you have those parameters all set, Quality Inspector can automatically apply the right template to every new batch of mountain bikes,
Oh, wow.
or even at specific points along the assembly line that you've decided on beforehand.
Okay.
So it's making sure those checks happen consistently at exactly the right times without someone having to remember or look up what to do every single time.
That's pretty slick.
Right.
So that naturally brings us to the idea of automating quality inspections, because it's not just about having the right instructions written down somewhere.
Nope.
It's about actually making sure they're followed without slowing everything down.
Exactly. That's one of the biggest challenges in manufacturing,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
How do you make sure those quality checks are happening all the time without turning them into a huge bottleneck that just stops production in its tracks?
You've got to...
And Quality Inspector solves that by letting you set up these automatic triggers for inspections
Okay.
based on things that are already happening in your Business Central system.
So give us an example. What kind of trigger events are we talking about?
Sure, so let's say you're receiving a shipment of parts from a supplier.
Okay, common scenario.
That's a really important moment to check the quality of everything coming in before it even gets into your production process.
Right, catch it early.
Exactly. So with Quality Inspector, just the simple act of marking that purchase order as received in Business Central could automatically trigger a receiving inspection.
Makes sense.
And then as your product moves through assembly, the production orders that start each stage could automatically trigger inspections for that specific stage.
So it's kind of like baking the quality checks right into the regular flow of production.
Exactly, instead of treating them as these separate things that someone has to remember to do manually.
Right, that's huge.
And then finally, right before a finished product is about to ship out to a customer, you can set it up so a pre-shipment check is automatically triggered.
Okay.
That's just to make absolutely sure everything meets those final specs.
So basically, you're creating this system where you're forced to do quality checks at every critical point.
Exactly.
And you're not relying on someone to remember or have time to do it manually.
It takes human error out of the equation.
Which is a huge deal.
For sure, and it really cuts down on the chances of those defects slipping through the cracks and getting further down the line.
Right, it's like stopping problems before they even start.
Exactly.
So let's talk about what happens if something doesn't actually pass inspection.
Okay.
This whole idea of blocking non-compliant inventory and enforcing compliance sounds like a pretty crucial part of preventing bigger issues down the road.
Oh, absolutely. It's essential.
Okay.
When an inspection fails in quality inspector, it doesn't just end up as like a little note in a logbook somewhere.
Okay.
It can instantly trigger restrictions on that specific inventory in your Business Central system.
So what does that actually look like in practice? Like, what does it mean to block inventory?
So let's say a batch of raw materials fails that initial receiving inspection.
Uh-huh.
You can set the system up so those materials are automatically blocked from being used in any production orders.
Wow.
It's like the system says, nope, this stuff isn't good enough, we're not using it.
That's great.
And similarly, if a finished product doesn't pass that final inspection,
Uh-huh.
the system can block it from being shipped out or even from being listed as available for sale.
So it's like this automatic safety net that makes sure anything that doesn't meet your standards
Right.
doesn't end up slipping through the cracks.
Exactly. It stops those non-conforming items from moving any further along in your supply chain.
That's got to be a big help when it comes to meeting all those industry regulations and quality standards.
Oh, absolutely. This feature gives you this documented and enforced quality process,
Okay.
which is super valuable for meeting requirements like ISO 9001
Right.
or guidelines from places like the FDA.
So let's say you're in food manufacture.
Okay.
You've probably got some pretty strict rules about pathogen testing for all your ingredients.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So if a batch of something important, let's say dairy, tests positive for too much bacteria,
Uh-huh.
quality inspector can automatically block that whole batch from being used.
That's great.
It basically prevents a potentially unsafe product from ever being made.
Okay.
Those pathogen test rules become just an automatic part of your quality checks.
That's a really clear example of how this could prevent some seriously bad situations.
For sure, and it helps guarantee that you're staying compliant all the time.
Now, with all these inspections happening, you're obviously collecting a ton of data.
You are.
What do you actually do with all that information? That brings us to quality reporting and data-driven decision-making.
Right, it's not enough just to do the inspections, even if you're doing them really well.
Okay. The real magic happens when you actually look at all that data and use it to make smart decisions.
I see.
That's how you find ways to constantly improve your whole manufacturing process.
So Quality Inspector actually connects with other tools for that.
Oh, yeah. It integrates with some really powerful stuff like Power BI for creating visual dashboards that are updated in real time.
Wow.
And then you can use Microsoft Excel to do deeper analysis with all the statistics and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you can even use Microsoft Teams so everyone on your team can work together on any quality issues that pop up.
So let's say I'm a manufacturer. Using all this, what kind of insights can I actually expect to get from all this reporting and analysis?
Well, for one thing, you can start to spot patterns in the defects you're seeing.
Okay.
Is there a particular issue that keeps popping up more and more?
Uh-huh.
That could mean there's a problem with a specific machine or a certain part that's failing a lot.
Right.
Or maybe even that you need to do some more training for your team.
That's a great point.
You can also compare how different suppliers are doing in terms of quality,
Okay.
which gives you some hard data to help you make better purchasing decisions.
Yeah.
You can even use that information to negotiate for better quality standards from your suppliers.
I see.
And then for things like regulatory compliance, you can easily create all those reports you need directly from the inspection data.
Like certificates of analysis.
Exactly. And you can get these really detailed reports like a quality inspection test analysis, which gives you a breakdown of all the test results
Uh-huh.
and failure rates across different products and processes and even over different periods of time.
So it's not just about finding problems, but also about being able to prove to your customers and anyone else who needs to know that you're serious about quality.
Exactly. It's all documented right there.
Okay, the last thing we want to touch on is mobile-optimized quality inspections.
Oh, yeah.
Because these days, being able to do things on the go is pretty much essential.
Especially in manufacturing?
Right, quality checks don't always happen sitting at a desk.
Definitely not.
So this is all about giving inspectors the tools they need to do their job right there on the shop floor.
Exactly, and Quality Inspector lets them do it all using tablets or smartphones, things they're probably already carrying around anyway.
That's great. So what kind of features do they have access to on those mobile devices?
Well, there's a really intuitive touchscreen interface that makes entering data really quick and easy.
Okay.
They can use the device's camera to take pictures of any defects they find, so there's visual documentation right there. And there's barcode scanning, so they can track specific batches or serial numbers really quickly and accurately.
That makes a lot of sense.
Imagine an inspector is right there on the assembly line, and they spot something wrong.
Okay.
They can instantly record that issue, take a picture of it, and link it to the exact product.
All from their phone.
All from their phone. It's super streamlined.
So basically, switching to a digital system like Quality Inspector offers some pretty big advantages for manufacturers, no matter what size they are.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
By ditching those old manual methods,
Uh-huh.
manufacturers can actually see a real decrease in defects,
Yeah.
which obviously cuts down on the cost of having to rework things or scrap stuff entirely.
And it makes meeting all those regulatory requirements way easier and more reliable.
Absolutely.
Plus, too much of the quality check process gets automated,
Right.
which means you're going to see a big boost in overall efficiency.
And maybe even more importantly,
Yeah.
you're getting this real-time view of how you're doing on quality,
Right.
which gives you the power to make those data-driven decisions that help you keep getting better.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How would having this kind of real-time, totally integrated quality control change the game for manufacturers?
It will be huge.
It's not just about finding mistakes after they happen.
Nope.
It's about making quality a part of every single step in the process from the very beginning.
That's the future of manufacturing right there.
It's definitely something worth thinking about. Thanks for breaking it all down for us.
Happy to do it.
It's been a really insightful deep dive.
Absolutely.
So for everyone listening out there, I want you to consider this.
Okay.
You're working hard to make great products, right?
Right.
But what if you could take it a step further?
Okay.
What if you could not just avoid mistakes, but actually build quality into every single stage of your manufacturing process?
Now that's an idea worth exploring.
That's the real challenge, isn't it? It's not just about meeting standards.
Nope.
It's about exceeding them consistently.
That's how you stand out in the market.
That's how you build a reputation for excellence.
And ultimately, that's how you build a successful business.
Exactly. So for all of you out there in the manufacturing world, I encourage you to really dig into this idea of real-time integrated quality control.
It could be a game changer.
Because in the end, it's not just about making things, it's about making things better.
Couldn't agree more.
And that's something we should all be striving for.
Definitely food for thought.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Quality Inspector for Business Central.
Thanks for having me.
We'll be back soon with another episode of The Deep Dive.
See you then.